Thank you very much for coming to Parent University at Sweetwater Union High School District in collaboration with UCSD. This is session number 6, I believe. We have with us Dr. Morgan Appel from UCSD. Um, we are recording this session to put on our YouTube channel. So make sure that if for some reason you missed anything from our meeting today, that you go back to our YouTube channel and we will post the link on our chat as we go through the session. Additionally, we also have a question and answer document that we'll be posting in our chat where you can ask questions. And if you can't use the document, just write the actual question on our chat as well, and we can actually just answer directly from there. If you need translation or interpretation in Spanish, go ahead and click on the little globe on the bottom of the screen and pick Spanish. Make sure that you mute the original audio so that you don't hear both audios at the same time. Si ocupan interpretación en español, opriman el botón del globito y escojan la interpretación en español, que el día de hoy la está haciendo Ms. Simmons. So, Dr. Appel, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Dominguez, and the always intrepid helpers and supporters, our ardent scholars who are joining us today. As always, I'm going to start out by thanking you all for spending an hour out of your day with us. I know it is a lot to ask, especially as we are barreling toward the holidays, but so very glad to see you and appreciate your having welcomed me into your homes, and to those of you who may be watching on YouTube or Netflix or whatever provider you are using, hello and welcome. And we are going to continue our conversation, an overview of the college application process. This is where we have actually been making our way out of the proverbial harbor and out into open ocean. And as we look at these topics, things like financial aid, things like testing and athletics and all of those, making good decisions, each one of these topics in and of themselves warrant their own individual courses. And something like NCAA, we actually do teach a course on NCAA athletes and scholarships, and that lasts almost half of a year. So what you are getting is the overview, but as always, we are committed to providing additional information to anybody who needs it. And I've had the benefit of hearing from so many of you who are asking questions about their unique situations and asking for advisement, and do rest assured that if I don't have the answer, I will connect you with somebody who does. Now, we're going to start out like we usually start out by having you guess where I am. Now, you actually have two options today, because this photograph that you're seeing on the slide deck, behind me, I would be seated in front of the sort of defining characteristic of this campus. So I have put it here on the slide deck for you to identify. Now, because I do not want to depart from the tradition of what I've got in my background, I have a painting in my background. This is not related to college. This is not related to campus, unless perhaps you are studying history, which is a clue. But if you can identify, you don't have to identify the painting or the artist, but if you can identify where this painting might be found, or if you identify the campus, you will win a prize from UC San Diego. And we just got new prizes in for those of you who are already won. We are waiting to ship. We are waiting for our UC San Diego face masks and all sorts of stuff to come in, are replenishing our supplies. So we've been all around the world. We've been to Chicago, we've been to Irvine, we've been to the UK and to Mexico City. So this one is a bit closer to home. So I'm going to ask you to name the campus. And before we move ahead, I'm just going to check the chat. Okay, has anybody know these? Oh, usually everybody's so quick to name it. So again, name the campus or name the painting and win a prize. Okay, I see that Ms. Godinez has a hand raised. And I don't know, let's see. Ms. Godinez, did you have a question? Okay, that may, if you do have a question, please make sure to put it in the chat, or if you have an answer to the question that I've posed, please do so. Where have we been? So we've taken a look at some of the cognitive and socio-emotional factors that impact making decisions about post-secondary education or post-secondary experiential endeavors. We looked at different experiences that are available, things like gap years, things like early entry to work, certificate program. We've looked at different types of colleges and universities. And giving you a bit of insight on how one can make a selection. And it's important that you narrow your options down and you're realistic and you're also aspirational. But what it's really going to come down to is to make sure that you also, if you can, pay a visit. Now, there's also a lot of virtual tours that are available, but you really do want to become immersed in those. We started talking a bit about financial aid. And again, these are all topics that are so weighty and so vast, they are deserving of a course in and of themselves. But let's continue on. And the next time that we meet, I'm going to actually provide you with a few case studies, a few models. So how does a student athlete do it? How does a transfer student do it? If somebody wants to go to a gap year or somebody wants to take a certificate, what is the process that they followed? So I will make sure that you get a good sense of how to do things. So onward. Now, we talked a little bit about college athletes, and it's going to be very different between Division I, Division II, and Division III. And we're talking about scholarships and fellowships that are available. And when we look at the case study of athletes, we're also going to look at, well, what are the graduation requirements? Are they different? Do athletes receive tutors automatically? And we'll take a peek at that. But as we look at closing out our section on financial aid, or at least the brunt of it, you should know that you and your kids can afford college. There are millions, if not billions, of dollars in financial aid that go unclaimed every year because nobody applies for it. And that has to do with, people will be told, well, this is too expensive. There's no way that I'll be able to afford it. So there are a lot of scholarships that nobody applies for. There's a lot of aid that nobody takes advantage of. So like anything else, this is a process. It can't be done in an evening, but it takes time to do research and look at all of the opportunities. Yes, it is time intensive. Yes, it is emotionally intensive, and it is energy intensive. But finding the right fit and finding a way to move through school is really well worth the investment. Now, the good thing about doing this is you are not alone. Now, when I was a young lad and I was interested in going to a four-year university after what felt like 7 or 8 community colleges, I really was responsible for finding out about what kinds of funding are available, what kinds of scholarships and what kinds of loans were available. But luckily, today, you are not alone in this effort, so that there are counselors, there are admissions officers, and financial aid personnel that are readily available at every campus to assist you. And they are open to questions, open to scenarios. And if I said before, if they don't have the answers, they will connect you to somebody who does. There are several opportunities for scholarships and fellowships available at UC San Diego, for example, where your room and board and your tuition and your books are paid for so long as you remain in good standing with the scholarship program to which you were accepted. Now, this is encouraging news. This is inspirational, and I do hope that you find some comfort in all of this. But it's also very important to be vigilant. As I said before, if it sounds too good to be true, it is most likely too good to be true. There are some rather unscrupulous institutions who will offer these wonderful packages, but they're only good for a year. So they'll say, okay, everything is paid. You don't have to, you have to contribute anything. But sometimes those are only good for a year. And oftentimes these are institutions in which you would not be able to transfer courses. So it's important to take a look. Remember when we talked about things like accreditation, when we talked about things like reputation, there were several schools that have been shut down now, where they would lure people in with a promise of a good financial aid package. And when they found out that it wasn't available after the first year, tried to transfer to a public institution or not-for-profit independent institution, and found out that the courses they took were not accepted there. So again, be careful. It's just like buying anything else. It's like buying a house or buying a car. You'd want to make sure that those are inspected. Financial aid. Now remember, it's not just about getting money to get through 4 years. What applying for and receiving financial aid does is a wonderful metacognitive support in terms of fiscal responsibility and using money smartly. And we'll talk about this more next time, but we actually do have a course that is free for parents and free for students in both English and Spanish that has to do with fiscal responsibility, including student loans. So it's very easy when the offer of money is in front of you just to sort of sign off and say, well, I'll worry about it later. But we know that the student loan debt load is staggering, and there are many out there who graduate from school and will not be able to pay off their student loans in their lifetime. So again, it's all about smart use of funds and really trying to take advantage of scholarships and fellowships first to reduce any loan-related debt load. Now, I talked about some of the resources that are available and that you don't have to do this yourself. A great place to start is admissions and financial aid offices, whether it's at a community college, a California State University, a University of California, or Independence. They will usually have a place for students and parents to go and to inquire about funding college and applying for college. At the University of California, we have a program called Early Academic Outreach, and any of you who are interested in that, I can connect you directly to them at UC San Diego. At the California State University, it is known as the Educational Opportunity Program, and at the community colleges, Extended Opportunity Programs and Services, basically organizations on campus that do the same types of things in terms of preparing and guiding and informing. And on our website, our Education Community Outreach website, and our UCTV websites, we have videos that are produced by Early Academic Outreach that you can watch. So you don't have to make an appointment in person. You don't have to make a call. You can watch the videos, and then if you have questions thereafter, you can have them asked. We also at UC San Diego, we have a college counseling program that is available. Generally, this is sort of the purview of people who are interested in doing college counseling, finding matches between students and parents and institutions. But we do have courses that are available looking at things like financial aid, athletics, international university experiences, and we can look at making some of those available without cost to our parent scholars from Sweetwater Union High School District. But this is all to say that this is not you having to go everything alone. You've heard the expression that it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes an entire university system to get a candidate through the admissions process. And we're very happy to be of that service. So make sure that you connect with those. Now, one of the things we really haven't talked about as yet is application tips. And I remember when I was applying to university, it was a paper application, and you had to print and ink, or you had to type, and there were a variety of things that you had to do. You had to get recommendations. You had to write a statement of purpose. Now, this was true back in the 1980s, that every college or university had sort of their own proprietary application. And this was true even within the university system. So, for example, if I was interested in 1986 in applying to UCLA and to UC Irvine, I would have to solicit application materials from each of those campuses. Did I download them? No, because the internet at that time did not exist. I had to request them by mail and wait for them to come. Now, today, everything is downloadable. You can apply online. You can still apply by hand. We'll talk a little bit about the Common App, which is an absolute godsend for those applying to multiple campuses. And we'll talk about what that is all about. But no matter how you are going to apply, so if you are going to use parchment and quill, or you are going to use the latest online system, there are a few things that you should know. And one is to plan ahead. Always plan ahead. Start early. So we're going to talk about testing, and we will find that there are a number of campuses who have done away with college entrance exams, or are test optional or test flexible. But if you are taking tests, whether that is a P-test or SATs or ACTs, make sure you start early and be aware of deadlines and prepare ahead of deadlines. Be consistent. And you might think, well, what do you mean be consistent? Well, if you are named William, and on your application you are William, and on your statement of purpose you are Billy, and you know, in your application, on one part of the application you talk about doing X, and in the other part that you talk about doing Y, it's going to be a bit confusing. So don't assume that anybody who is reviewing your applications is sufficiently familiar with you and your vicissitudes, but make sure that you be consistent throughout. It is friendly to the end user. And be careful. And I don't mean, you know, worry about you know, leaking information or paper cuts and the like, but make sure that you proofread. Make sure that you take your time. Make sure that you are filling out things completely. There's nothing more disheartening than to get a letter back that says, hey, you missed this, could you resubmit it? Or finding a typo later. So really, again, this is a process. This takes a while. It is a good investment of your time. So do take your time. Practice writing statements of purpose. Practice what you're going to say during an interview. Practice how you might solicit a letter of recommendation. And when you do solicit those things, those letters of recommendations, make sure to alert your school. This is for students and parents alike. Make sure to let people know that you are applying to X, Y, and Z, and don't be surprised if you get a solicitation for a recommendation. It is not only a kind thing to do, but it prevents people being taken by surprise, especially if you are soliciting a letter of recommendation for somebody who does not feel comfortable giving you a letter of recommendation. So again, be thoughtful in the way that you process. Details matter. So, you know, don't wait on, you know, on sending your materials in. After they are ready to go, send them in. Don't delay, don't second guess once you've had things created and reviewed. Submit once. Now, this was not a problem during my day because you could only really send an application packet out once. But if you realize online that you submitted something incorrectly, don't keep hitting the submit button. Don't send them multiple applications. It has the same effect as standing in front of the crosswalk, pressing the button, pressing the button, pressing the button. Make sure you submit once. Always keep copies. I think that is a tried and true thing to do. Make sure to get confirmation if it is offered. So make sure that you get confirmation that your application was received. And if for any reason you forgot something, or misspelled, or a sentence is out of order, don't panic. It happens to the best of us. And again, this can be a stressful process. And we can think back to everything that we've talked about in our socio-emotional development workshops and our brain compatible learning workshops, to talk about how stressful this process is, and the tools that we can use to handle the stress. So we know about fight, flight, and freeze. This is a process in which you will find a lot of procrastination. You will find the neuroscience of avoidance sometimes kicking in. Again, it's not just stressful for the person who is applying, it is stressful for all of those who are around the person who is applying, especially you as parents and caregivers who have a vested stake and want to see your kids happy and productive. Now, we understand that this can be stressful. So what are some of the things that you can do, or your child or young adult can do to approach the process? One of the things is that you want to lessen the perceived danger, because there is a lot at stake, and that is what raises concern. It activates our brain's fight, flight, or freeze, our survival mechanism, because this is a problem that needs to be solved, and it needs to be solved in the right way. So detaching the danger. There is, are a number of options. If you don't get into one institution, there are others that you will get into. So having a sense of realism. Best way to defeat application-related stress is to have a plan and to follow the plan. What we know from our coursework on neuroscience is that the brain loves to solve problems in small bites, and when you are successful at one thing, it will drive you to the next thing. So have a plan, break things down into smaller pieces, and don't wait until the last minute. That's where all the stress comes in, trying to get everything done. I'm not a good example of that. I am a procrastinator, bar none. So do as I say, not as I do. Have a plan, get organized, and lay things out, stepwise processes. Have the resources you need readily available. Breathe and exercise. Even the act of taking deep breaths can settle one down. And we know about the exercise. We know about the impacts of dopamine, the idea of the runner's high, and that we tend to feel better exercise after we exercise, that it is a stress reducer. So if we imagine the application process to be all-consuming, and we begin to obsess over it, that is where the danger starts to creep in. So again, it's a matter of balance. Your student will probably not be able to find the balance because they have a sort of a one-track mind when it comes to applying. So what you want to be able to do is provide them with a sense of balance and allow them to sort of walk away from it when they need to walk away. Don't believe the hype. What do I mean by this? Is the rumor mill around higher education is often ubiquitous and pervasive and inaccurate. So, you will hear kids saying, well, I'm not going to apply to that school because they're not taking anyone else, or it's going to be too hard, or they won't take people from California, that kind of thing. Don't let the rumor mill impact your children and your young adults. Be honest and be realistic. The road to a major four-year university does not always have to be as a freshman. If grades are not where they should be, a student can always go to a community college and work on getting that up and transfer. So really be honest and realistic. You can apply to as many colleges and universities as you like. You can apply to hundreds, but it's pretty impractical in terms of what you want to get out of the experience. And the cost can be daunting. So the idea is that you pick a reasonable number of schools, probably 10 or 11 at most, where you know that the fit is good and that you have a good chance of being admitted. And if you don't know, then consult your team of experts. You should always have a team of experts around who can answer questions about perhaps financial aid. And if you don't have an expert in financial aid available, let me know. I'll connect you to an expert in financial aid. Always have somebody who might be able to read an essay or to proofread an application to make sure that everything is spelled right. There are some people who spell their names wrong on college applications. So you have a team around you. That is the best way. Think of it as your college application entourage. This is a scary thing, and I think that if you can make the process as enjoyable as is possible, you'll create what we call a sense of flow and an engagement. Sometimes you will have things like writer's block when you're trying to write the application essay and you obsess about it and you have, you just can't get the words out. It's scary to think about what's next. So sometimes you will be hamstrung. One of the best things to do with that, take time away, walk away from it and come back later. And of course, always find balance. Engage in the activities that you've always engaged in, whether that's sports or recreation or spending time with family. And you as parents have a weighty responsibility because oftentimes your kids are not going to do that on their own. So you are going to be their counsel, their mentor, and their guide as they go through this process. And luckily they have you on this journey with them. And I can pledge that they will have me and my team of experts on their journey as well. So you might have a question, for example, about, well, is this a realistic pursuit? And if not, I will give you a straight answer and refer you to others who can also help. Now let's talk a little bit about the Common App. Now, I told you that in the 80s, when I was applying to colleges, I would have to solicit applications from hither and yon and fill them all out. And each of the applications, I think, probably cost about $30 or $40 to submit. And it was a real problem because we were writing in pen or we are typing. Well, the wonders of the internet have brought us what we call the Common App. Now, the Common App is a shared platform for applicants serving over 900 colleges and universities, not only in the US, but also in Canada and the United Kingdom. So you have one application that goes to them all. Now, not every institution is connected to the Common App, but most are. And even if they are connected perhaps to another platform, another application platform, they are also connected to the Common App. So this allows you to apply to multiple institutions all at once. You will find that the Common App also has, one essay that you will fill out for all of those institutions. Now, you also want to be careful if there are any supplementary applications that you have to fill out associated with a major or anything else, but the Common App is available to you online, saves you time, saves you energy, and saves you funds. what does the Common App look like? Well, you've got the main application section, basic questions. What's your address? What's your name? Date of birth, sort of the information that you would submit on any application. And there is an part of the application that deals with education. There is an essay that you write. And I'm going to show you some of the prompts. Those prompts have been released, and I'll show you some of the things that they will ask about for the essay. My colleges, all that means are where do you want to apply? If there is additional information, there is a section for that. So for example, we know that the last 2 years have been particularly challenging and daunting for a lot of kids who may have experienced trauma, who may have experienced loss. So if there is anything that you don't see on the main application page or that can be dealt with in the essay, it is a place that you can say, last year I was particularly affected by the pandemic and this sort of thing, to help explain some circumstances, some dips in grades, things like that. There is a recommendation upload. So your recommenders can actually upload recommendations. And you'll see that there are others platforms, but again, usually most of them will offer a specific platform as well as the Common App. Now, there are some institutions that insist that you use their own application. They don't take the Common App. But if you go to the Common App website, you will be able to see what institutions offer it. So the Common App, again, is a really great thing. It is a true advancement. And we'll take a look at some of the essays, questions that you might find on the Common App. But let's talk about tests before we go there. Now, you will see that there are a lot of standardized college entrance exams. And I know, so before you start saying, yes, but isn't it test optional? And what about this and what about that? Yep, I got you. And we're getting there. But let me provide sort of a landscape pre-COVID to take a look at what some of these tests look like. The oldest of these tests are the SAT, and the SAT has a grading scale, a scoring scale from 400 to 1600. There's no penalty for wrong answers, so guessing is allowed, if not encouraged. It is a 3-hour test, and if you fill out the optional essay for the SAT, it's about a 4-hour test. On the SAT, reading, writing, and language, math without a calculator, and math with a calculator. This is something I could not have imagined many years ago. And the scored sections are evidence-based reading and writing that ranges from 200 to 800 score, and math from 200 to 800. There are multiple choice questions and what they call grid-in math questions, where you fill in a grid. So that's the way the SAT works. Now, again, I'm going to put a caveat on that to say that the landscape for standardized entrance exam testing has changed. And I will also tell you that if you are thinking about taking the SAT anyway, either as a way to improve test taking skills, or if you might, if your institution uses the SAT for scholarship awards or any other criteria, we at UC San Diego Extension's Education Community Outreach Office have you covered. We actually were mortified by the cost of test prep books, and we have created one of our own that is available to anybody who would like one without charge. And I will tell you how to get your hands on that if you're interested. And even if you're not taking the SAT, you might want to take a look at it. There are SAT subject tests, so these are for unique subjects. The ACT came a little bit later, SAT-esque, SAT-ish. The classic learning test is an interesting variation. It's the latest player in the standardized college entrance exam game, not as prevalent perhaps as things like the SAT and the ACT. Advanced placement, we're going to talk about that and why it's important to take the test. and TOEFL, which is the test of English as a foreign language. So usually if students are coming from abroad, and we will see in the coming years that will really start to pick up, there is a minimum score that people who do not speak English, who are coming from outside the United States, have to score at a particular rate. GED, that is General Educational Development, and that is the equivalent, the high school diploma equivalent. And of course, once you get admitted, most universities, most colleges will have placement tests, so they know exactly what course that you should be taking on your way in. That is not a college entrance exam, but it's just good to know that you should be prepared for that. Now, we talked about the SAT. Let's talk a little bit about the ACT. The ACT scoring scale is a little bit different. It goes from 1 to 36. Again, you're not penalized for wrong answers, so guess away. Around 3 hours in length, 2 hours, 55 minutes. If you do the version with the optional essay, it's going to be clocking you at about 3 hours, 25 minutes. Difference here is the addition of science. So you will get tested in English, math, reading, and science. That is different from the SAT, which does not require that. Scored sections are English, math, reading, and science, and they are all from 1 to 36. All questions are multiple choice. There's one math section, and you can use a calculator. So slight variations. So this is what's out there. Let's talk a little bit about AP exams, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the use of standardized entrance exams and some of the idiosyncrasies and why institutions may not use them anymore. AP exam. So if any of your kids are enrolled in AP courses, you know that there is a course and there is the exam, and the exam actually tests the mastery of skills within a specific AP course. End of year paper and pencil exam, but sometimes there are different ways to assess. So if you're taking AP design, you would submit a portfolio. Most important thing to know about AP courses and AP tests, if you want your application to look good, you would submit the AP course. That's part of your transcripts anyway. But if you want college credit, so here's the thing, if you want to obtain college credit for a particular AP course, you do have to take the exam. So just something to think about as you look to balance things out. Now, let's talk about testing. Now, SAT dates back to the turn of the last century, and it was emerged from a collection of Ivy League schools who formed the College Board. And what they wanted is to look at something that they believe would be more objective measures of academic achievement than were grades, because they believe that grades were very much subjective. So they wanted to get a good sense of equilibrium, and the SAT has persisted since then, but as of late, there has been a great deal of controversy regarding not only its value as a predictor of success in college. So does a good SAT score mean that you're going to do well in college? Well, it has not predicted that very well. It's often seen as a proxy for privilege. What does that mean? That means that kids who tend to score high on the SAT, it may reflect a measure of income versus ability. Well, I can afford to take test prep courses. I can afford to have tutors to help me along with that. We've also had questions related to whether the test is biased against certain underrepresented populations. And with the rise of Operation Varsity Blues, you may remember the college admissions scandal that sent, I believe it's Lori Loughlin from Full House to jail, as well as her husband and others, where people were actually cheating and sitting in for students who are going to take the exam. So again, there has been a lot of questions for a long time about the value of the SAT as well as the value of the ACT. Really, the big difference between the SAT and the ACT beyond the science requirement is its relative recency. This test was developed in 1959 as an alternative to the SAT, but somewhat similar in the way that they approached, and somewhat similar in terms of the controversy surrounding them. Which leads me to the next point about entrance and placement examinations and being test optional. So in the last 2 or so years, more than half of the country's four-year colleges and universities have dismissed the ACT or SAT. Part of it has to do with COVID. Part of it has to do with the factors we talked about before. So you look at places like the University of California, California State University, Brown, Caltech, Carnegie Mellon, Columbia. So we're talking about the Ivy League, Yale, University of Virginia have become test optional. Some are doing it, to see if it is viable in the longer term. There are other university systems who are trying to develop their own proprietary testing. Some have said, that's it, no more entrance exams, period, while others are testing the waters. So what we could do, if you like, we could go through each university and college alphabetically in the next 20 or so minutes, and I can tell you if they are test optional or test flexible or still testing. But perhaps an easier way of finding out is to go to ivywise.com. There is actually a blog post where they will present you with each and every institution in the United States and whether they are using testing and how flexible they are. So is it something that's persistent, or is it something that they're just testing out for 2 years? So as your young adult is thinking about college and university and the value of testing and whether you should be making an investment in test prep, you might want to go here first just to check it out and see for yourself. Now, I want to make sure that we have a little bit of time for a small group discussion about some of the stuff. But let's talk about the essay just quickly. It is stressful. It's trying to get all of who you are on paper within limits. So we always say that we want to approach the endeavor in a brain compatible way. Everything that we learned in our brain compatible workshop applies here. So first of all, it is important to write about something important to you. If it's not important to you, you're not going to have an emotional investment in the topic, and it's going to show. I've read enough entrance essays and statements of purpose to know when somebody is just writing about something that they have only a passing interest in. Be reflective. This is not a place where you're going to list all of your accomplishments without saying this is what happened as a result. I was able to provide service to people who were in a rest home, and this is how it impacted me. This is how it impacted the way that I see the world. Be very careful with humor. Not everybody interprets humor in the same way, and you are taking a big gamble trying to be funny. And this is not to say that your kids are not absolutely hilarious and worthy of their own television show, but not everybody's going to read it the same way, and you just really never know what may come across as insensitive or offensive. I would leave it out of that. And avoid contradictions and repeats. So if you are saying something in your essay that actually contradicts part of your application, that's not a great thing. And this is also to say, if it is in one part of the application, you don't have to keep repeating it. Instead, focus on those small things that are small but impactful, and make sure that you talk about how things have been impactful. This is an opportunity for you to shine, for your son, for your daughter to shine. So you should take it. So if you want to call attention to those things that may not be in the rest of the application, do it here. Make it personal, more beyond test scores and grades. The reader wants to get to know who you are as a person. They already know what your test scores are. They already have your transcripts. Don't necessarily go back to say, well, in my third semester, I got A's and, that sort of thing. Open, strong. First impressions matter. So in the very first paragraph, that is where you're going to hook people in. And we know that this works from our study of socio-emotional development and learning, that the learning with emotion is the learning that sticks. So you want to establish an emotional connection with your reader. Style matters, as does grammar. This is really important. Make sure that what you do is grammatically correct and flows well. This is not a place to do choppy. This is not a place to be careless with apostrophes or semicolons. Stay focused. It is easy to go off on a tangent. You don't have a lot of room here. So keep to the point. Make your points and arguments concisely. You're not arguing before the Supreme Court. You are trying to get into college. So make your point, but do it in a way that it is brief. Now, of course, this is sort of counterintuitive if you are applying to an institution where people will use pages where a sentence will do, but that you have to worry about once you get in. Be you, but be your best you. Really, really focus on those things that make you stand out, but be authentic. Don't lie. Be accurate, especially with quotes. So if you are quoting an author, you better make sure that you not only are accurate with what the quote is. So if you are saying, the proof is in the pudding, that is not the way that quote goes. So for any of you who are wondering, is the proof of the pudding is in the eating? So always make sure that you do that. Money is not the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. So please make sure that you are accurate and cite when necessary. Don't just, review the prompt cursorily and go on and on and on. Think seriously about what you are being asked, not only literally being asked, but what might be behind it. And if you get stuck, if you are just can't think of it, if you experience writer's block, which is not atypical at the university, just write anything, brainstorm, but get yourself started, and that process will get things to kick in. Consider audience and tone. You are not writing an epic novel, nor are you ordering at a restaurant. So you have to think about who your reviewers might be and what kind of a tone, not too flourishy, not too basic, but somewhat sophisticated. And if you're stuck and you don't know whether it's right, call your team to help with editing. So I know that we are just at about 10:02, and I know we wanted to leave a little time for a group discussion. So I will invite Jacob to come back to sort us very quickly. And our question for today, our small group discussion, is what seems like it's pretty straightforward in terms of college application. What is the most challenging things, and what questions do you have left? So Jacob, I don't know, do we have time to do a small group?
I don't know. Do you want to do a question and answer or do a small group? The small groups are ready, but I'm not sure if we're going to have time to do a question and answer with them. I don't know.
Okay, then let's save the small group. And what I'm going to do instead is let's get some questions and answers going. Please make sure either to put them in the chat or in the Q&A. But I want to preview for everybody who is watching live and who is watching at home. These are the essay prompts for the Common App. They are not a secret. So if you would like to take a look at these and have a look at them with your own children and young adults, your students, it is something that you can think about. So how would you approach these types of questions? Times when you questioned or challenged a belief, something that somebody has done for you, an accomplishment or event, that helped you to grow. So it is very personal, but remember, you only have a little bit of space to do it. Now, let us wrap up before Q&A, because I'm cognizant of our time, with college interviews. Now, there are a lot of colleges and universities that will accept a statement of purpose and your letters of recommendation, and you are good to go. There are some out there that will ask for interviews. They want applicants to come in and participate in a formal interview with a college administrator or member of the faculty, or an informal interview with an alumni or a current student, or both. So if you look at places like University of Oxford, University of Cambridge, and perhaps some of the Ivies, they will ask you to come in for an interview. Now, whether the interview is formal or informal, you want to be able to use the same philosophies and approaches we talked about in essay writing. But this can be a little bit more nerve-wracking. So it's good to plan. It's good to know what you are going to do. Again, always be yourself, but your best self. Practice, practice, and practice. Sit in front of a mirror. Sit with a friend. Have your friend do an interview with you. And, we can always scheme up some questions that might be asked in a college entrance interview. Bring non-standard questions. Meaning, if you can find it on the university's website, it's probably not a great thing to talk about, because they'll just say, oh, go to the website, you can find it there. Ask about the student experience. Ask about a typical day on campus. Those sorts of things that you cannot find in the college brochure or on the website. Do your research, just like a job interview. You want to make sure you know what the university is all about. Their origin points, what kind of majors, all of that sort of thing. So go prepared. Be prepared for common questions that they will ask of you. Again, be cognizant of time. If you have a half an hour interview, don't spend the first 20 minutes talking about one thing and having the interviewer rush through the rest. So be specific, be concise, and make sure that you always use examples. So let us do this. Let us open it up, Mr. Dominguez, to any questions that people might have. We'll try and give some answers in the immediate, but if we don't have time, you can submit them to the district. The district will send me a spreadsheet, or you can always contact me directly. So Mr. Dominguez, let's have a few questions if there are there. And I see the chat is full. I don't know what's in it, but let's see what we can do.
Right. Well, before we go into questions, I do want to say that our district does have, because I've been at school sites where students actually have the ability, obviously with COVID has changed, but have the ability to go on field trips to visit schools, right? They could be closed schools or closed schools that are further away. So I think that's really important for students to also take advantage of those opportunities, because they get to know the campus, they get to know the culture of the school side, right, of the campus, and that allows them to have a better understanding of, especially when it comes to interviews, of what to expect, right? Like sort of the culture, what is the focus of the campuses, right? And it's a great time for them to ask a lot of questions on those tours as well.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit more about college tours and residential experiences because prior to the pandemic, University of California, San Diego, through education and community outreach, offered residential experiences during the summer for high school students. So you can get a sense of the campus, but also what it's like to live on campus. And as we return from COVID and we look at the restrictions, we hope to do that again. But Mr. Dominguez, you're absolutely right. And we want to make sure that we at Extended Studies offer pre-college students the opportunity to interact with us on campus in as much as possible, because if you wind up going to UC San Diego, we want this to feel like home. So when you get here, you already are familiar. But on to the questions and answers.
Here's one of the questions that actually a few questions. Well, one question is regarding AP tests. Does it look better on applications to have taken the test and not do well, instead of not taking the test at all?
I would say, really people will take the AP tests for college credit. So I think, that is a good question. I think what really matters, if you are looking good for college, so if you're worried about looking good for college admissions purposes, so when somebody looks at your application, what they're looking at is that you've taken the course and that you've got a good grade in the course. Really, we use the AP exams as a means to determine whether we can grant you college credit. So I think, in that case, you would probably want to include the exam scores anyway, because we'll look at both.
Okay. One of the other questions, and I'm not sure if this was answered previously,
Mhm.
I don't remember, but we have a question from a parent said that they were looking into technical schools,
Yes.
that one of their students had been in college for 5 years, but they were looking to change to something more technical. So that's one of the questions out there.
So is the question then, is that a good idea? Is the question, is that possible? Certainly you want to be able to pursue those things that are engaging and that you feel close to and that you feel that you will do successful. And the great thing about, let's say, if you're going to college, if you're in college and you want to pursue something that may be more technical, you can oftentimes go through your campus's extended studies division. So we have at Extension, for those, we actually have a program called Launch. So for kids who are, well, not kids, for young adults who, they all seem so young to me, but on this side of the hill, everybody is looking young. But this is for students who are in college who are pursuing a degree, but would like something perhaps that's more practical or more interest focused. So things like, front end design or robotics or, those sort of technical skills that can be encapsulated in a certificate. If they are students at our institution, they can submit an application to undertake those things for free. So I think if that is where your passion lies, I would suggest pursuing it. But remember, you've also made quite an investment. So I don't think it has to be a choice of one or the other. I think it can be both and rather than either or. But for whoever was asking the question, send me an email. Let me know more about the situation, and I can provide you with a bit better guidance.
Thank you. Another question is, who is eligible for EOP?
So what you'd want to do, EAOP is actually a department on the campus that helps people get into school and thrive while they are there. So anybody can reach out to EAOP. Now, unless you are using the acronym in a different sense, but certainly EAOP on our campus often will have several events. If you go to our UCTV's education channel, you can find videos in English and in Spanish where they will talk about college admissions. And certainly if you're looking for that sort of advisement, we also have on our education channel one of the national leaders in college counseling, whose name is Dr. Stephen Mercer, who has recorded probably 20 or 25 short form 15-minute videos looking at all sorts of different aspects of college admissions, from applications to testing to financial aid. And those are free of charge. And certainly if you have some questions for Dr. Mercer, I can always reach out to him as well. But EOP, they are resources that are available to everyone to get some good advice.
Thank you. One last question
Of course.
from Ms. Griffin. I would like to know how to receive SAT textbooks.
Okay, well, there's two ways you can receive SAT textbooks. One is to go to the bookstore and take a look, or again, you can download them without charge from our website. So what I will do, Mr. Dominguez, is when I receive the questions for this week, I will give you a link. I believe what you can do, and I'm a little bit hesitant to do so because it would require me to exit out of all of this and kind of hunt and peck around, but our pre-college programs, if you are searching, you can look for UC San Diego Extension Test Prep, and you will see our test prep section. You can click on SAT and you should get prompted. A little thing will come up and say, would you like to download a free SAT guidebook? And you should be able to download it and print it. If not, what I can do is I actually have a PDF version of it. So when I answer the weekly questions, I'll make sure to include that as a link so everybody in our Sweetwater Union High School parent education family can have access to it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Appel. And once Dr. Appel provides that for us, we will put it on our Parent University webpage, which we've posted on the chat, but we'll also send a link to our participants. So you'll have access to that as well. We're trying to link as many things there so parents have easier access. So I really appreciate it, Dr. Appel. We do have one last question about FAFSA. If there's any other scholarships offered by the state of California. I believe that the FAFSA is not necessarily a scholarship that the state of California provides, but it's more like the federal government being able to provide resources in terms of money to the students. Is that correct?
Right. So FAFSA is really the form that you complete to determine eligibility. And let me just go back quickly to that because we did cover it earlier. So let me go back very quickly. I think, was that the FAFSA? No, that was not it. Hold on. We're getting there. Okay, so the FAFSA, again, is the form that you would complete to determine eligibility. Now, there is a site that you can go to, so again, the FAFSA is the form that you complete. But if you look at,
I think you just passed through my student aid. Is that the one you were looking for?
Yes,
Go back
exactly.
a little bit.
But yes, that is correct. But if you go to the state of California, so if you type in this title, scholarships and grants, California, you will find a site to which you can connect, which will list out all of the sort of California specific. If you're solely interested in those programs that are available through the state of California, like these, you will find it there. But you can also take a look at some of the other resources. Again, the My Student Aid app is a great place to start.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Appel. Ms. Delgado, I believe you are in here with us. If you'd like to, I know you wanted to say something to the parents.
Hi, hey Jacob. Hi, I came in a little late. I do apologize. No, I didn't have anything in particular, but I do appreciate the time and the information about colleges and all the details that Dr. Appel has illuminated us, and now with different requirements regarding the SAT. I do want to kind of start promoting our parent symposium that is coming up in the spring. We will have more details for you later, but that is another opportunity for you to participate in our district's parent engagement endeavors and or activities that we have for all the parents of the district. Please tell other parents, tell your friends to log on to our parent universities. And if they can't log on at 1 o'clock, then refer them over to our recorded parent university sessions in our website. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all you do for your child.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. And I'm just noticing in the chat that somebody got UC Merced. That's absolutely correct. That was the picture. That was UC Merced. A good job. I think it was Marta Canchola that I am seeing. I don't know if anybody guessed the painting behind me and where it might be found, but this painting is actually in the Alhóndiga de Granaditas in Guanajuato, Mexico. So it was the flashpoint for the Mexican War of Independence. So I will move out of the way so you can see the complete picture, but that is where you can find that. So I don't know if anybody had guessed that, but yes, UC Merced and Guanajuato. So, all right, My friends, my colleagues, my intrepid parent scholars, I will look forward to seeing you in our next session, where we'll take a final look at some of these issues, and we'll give you some case studies. So we'll look at a scholar athlete, we will look at a transfer student, and we'll look at the path that each one followed. And remember that each of these topics, topics that we are reviewing as synopses, could be covered in a semester of university. So you are plowing through this quite well, but there are a lot more details to be had. And if you need help with the details, you know that you can always find me, and I am always happy to help you. So Mr. Dominguez, Ms. Simmons, Ms. Delgado, and all of the great people at Sweetwater Union High School, thank you, and we will see you next time.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.